to me, come to me.
Good morning on the darker days that approach for the winter solstice. We are so glad that you have joined us today. I'm Martha Sincula, your service leader. I welcome you to the Umpqua Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Our speaker this week is Michael Wheeler. He will be available after the service for an after-sermon Zoom discussion. Every Sunday, the sign-in time is the same at 11:15, with conversations starting at 11:30. And as we continue to meet through these recorded services, I know how many of us are missing the beloved community of in-person services. It's important to make every effort to stay connected with one another during the physical separation. Please call and check with others so that see how they are. Just say hi. It would be much appreciated. If you're using YouTube, you could help others who might find it difficult to do so in order that as many of us possibly can participate in the services. And if you want to participate in our after-service Zoom discussions and haven't used Zoom yet, you can Google Zoom to download the free app and follow the easy prompts. And once you've done that and signed in for the free Zoom account, click on the link in your email that Michael sends out every week. If you missed the service discussion, the after-service discussion, they are recorded, just like our services, so you can view them anytime on YouTube. Services are generally uploaded on Saturday nights. Otherwise, these discussions are recorded, so you can view them anytime on YouTube, just like our services. And if you're using the YouTube, you can do the subscribe link. Just click on the bar. It'll make it much easier. In addition to services and discussions, we also have meditations and interviews. There's a lot to check out. And if you're having trouble hearing our services on YouTube, you can click on the CC button at the bottom of the YouTube screen next to the settings. It will help you see the captions so that you can read along as you watch. We thank Michael Wheeler and Lucy Swangham for their work on producing these videos and our services each week. As we begin our service, we light the chalice. And our chalice lighting words are by Elizabeth McMaster. We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In the search for truth, may we be just. In the search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. Our opening words are by C. Joy Bell. Anger is like flowing water. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you let it flow. Hate is like stagnant water. Anger that you denied yourself the freedom to feel, the freedom to flow. Water that you gathered in one place and left to forget. Stagnant water becomes dirty, stinky, disease-ridden, poisonous, deadly. That is your hate. On flowing water travels little paper boats of forgiveness. Allow yourself to feel the anger. Allow your waters to flow, along with all the paper boats of forgiveness. Be human. Now is the time in our service for reflection. Find a comfortable position. Feet on the floor. And as we take a slow breath in and a slow breath out, let us gather our energies as we participate in the three-part meditation. Listen to the words, spend some time in silence, and enjoy the music. Our words today are by Rudyard Kipling, called If. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it all on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, don't talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your chum long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if either foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Our speaker today is Michael Wheeler, our Director of Music at UUC. Michael hosts a Master's Certificate in Music Theory, Harmony, and Ear Training from the Berklee School of Music, a Bachelor of Arts degree in Music History from Charter Oak State College, a Master of Arts in Ethnomusicology, which is studying shamanic drumming, Eastern Orthodox chant, Indo-Persian sacred music, and folk dance of the British Isles. A Master of Fine Arts in Music Composition from Vermont College of Fine Arts, and a Doctorate of Sacred Music from the Interfaith Theological Seminary, where his dissertation, Examination of Meditative and Therapeutic Dance as Practice for Well-Being, was referred to as groundbreaking. Outside of musical studies, Dr. Wheeler holds advanced diplomas in philosophy, psychology, and sociology, as well as being a certified life coach through Ecology Ltd UK. He is an ordained minister through the International Metaphysical Ministry, during which time he developed practices of meditation and hypnosis. Michael's primary focus in ministry is examining the role of story in his shaping of the self and community. He is also our director, videographer, and editor of all of our recorded sermons that you're seeing every week, doing excellent work. Thank you, Michael.
Well, good morning, UU family, on this final Sunday in November. It seems like time is flying faster than I can keep up with. I'm sure you feel the same way. So I wanted to start this talk with this is an old viral video, but I will bet that there's more than a few of you who haven't seen this one yet. And this was a video that came out around the same time as I think it was like 2017, 2018. There was a video going around of an audio clip, and depending on who you were, you would hear two different names, either Laurel or Yanny. And it was all over the news, and people were arguing over it. This video came out about the same time, but did not receive the same amount of coverage. And it's similar to the Laurel Yanny video, but it's also very different. And this video is called Brainstorm or Green Needle. And I'll play the audio for you. And the trick is to think either brainstorm or green needle. And depending on which one you're thinking, that's what you will hear. Everybody I've played this for says it works, and it definitely works for me. So if there's somebody who doesn't hear it, then maybe we can talk about that in the conversation. So let's sacrifice 1 minute and give this a listen, then we'll come back and talk about it. Okay, so kind of crazy, right? That it almost seems like a parlor trick or a magic trick. Now, really, the way that this works, it has to do with the physics of sound frequencies and psychological, what psychologists call priming. And priming means that you are taught to think something and then it's confirmed by the natural world, which is why you could think green needle and hear that just as clearly as you would hear brainstorm. So what this proves is that our perception of the world is directly influenced by our thoughts. And this isn't a new concept. But I can't help but think that this partially explains why our culture exists in a constant state of division. But we can talk more on that later. Let's look at an example of how this division might arise, though. And I was thinking back to a Wayne Dyer lecture, and Wayne Dyer is on the beach and he's talking to two different people on two different nights. And so he's on the beach in California where he lived at the time, and somebody comes up to him because they saw him on the Tonight Show and says, "I'm just moving here. What is it like here? I'm moving from like let's say Minnesota or something, and I'm moving here to California." And Wayne Dyer responds, "Well, how is it where you live?" And they say, "Oh, it's awful. I'm from the city. People are rude. Everything's too fast. People are mean and curt and cruel." And Wayne Dyer says, "Well, that's pretty much the way it is here." And then the same thing happens a few nights later. Somebody approaches him on the beach from recognizing him on the Tonight Show and says, "I'm moving here from Alabama." Yeah. And what's it like here? And Wayne Dyer responds, "Well, what is it like where you live?" And they say, "Oh, it's just beautiful. It's fantastic. The people are so polite and they're so kind. And we just really hate to leave, but this opportunity came up." And Wayne Dyer responds, "Well, it's pretty much that way here too." And what that means is that what you expect is what your reality will manifest. And I don't mean this in the way of some kind of like magical new thought formula for manifesting what you want in life. I do think those things are interesting, and I do think there's some merit to it. But what I mean is just a basic, fundamental psychological sense of well-being, that you look at the world as kind, and then you are able to find examples of that kindness of the world. And that is how you go about existing in your reality. So how is this applicable to some of our modern plights? Getting back to divisions in our culture, or other existential problems that we might have in this ever increasingly connected world. And this is a true story, and it's a true story in the way that I say that because if you were to write, let's say, like a science fiction book and include this kind of story before the events happen, people reading the book would say, "No, that's too on the nose. Life doesn't work like that." But this actually happened. So it was about a year ago. I was talking with an older friend of mine. I think he's in his 70s. And we were talking about environmentalism, and specifically humanity's role in environmentalism. And I was expressing my frustration, and I still have this frustration. I was expressing my frustration in the cognitive dissonance surrounding this notion that humanity is an infestation in the world, right? That humanity is responsible for destroying the environment, and the more humans there are, the more the environment is destroyed. Therefore, you are doing a good thing when you choose not to have children. you're doing something altruistic, that we need to reduce the population in order to save the environment. This is a very popular opinion, especially by those who find themselves on the political left. But it's not just that, and this isn't really a political issue, it's more of a social issue. And and I sat back and I said, well, how is it then that humanity can be bad for the world, yet murder is an evil thing, right? If you truly believed in your heart, and I don't believe that he did, but if you truly believed in your heart that humanity was a scourge on the earth, then indeed you would have to praise the genocides that have happened throughout the world, be it the Holocaust or the Holodomor or the killing fields or, the Great Leap Forward in communist China. All of these things would seem to be good things, because if humanity is bad, then ridding the world of humanity would be good. And truthfully, and I don't want to be too bombastic in this. Truthfully, what we were doing is we were pursuing a thought experiment, of like testing how far in one or either direction we could go with extreme viewpoints to test the validity of our ideas. But he kind of summarized this, saying that the best thing that could happen to the world, and this is the unbelievable part, is that a virus would sweep the world, killing off the infirmed and the old, so that you would have a world of nothing but young, healthy people, and essentially you could start over again. Now, again, I don't believe that he actually believed this, but it is interesting that a year later we find ourselves, after 8 months of lockdown, and a virus that is threatening the old and the infirmed, and nobody is throwing parades for the coronavirus. Nobody thinks that the coronavirus is a boon to the world, right? And that is, I think, evidence of our human nobility, of our human compassion, because while intellectually, even if we believed that humanity was a scourge on the earth, which I don't believe, I hope nobody actually thinks that, that their notion of that has been challenged by not wanting their friends and family to suffer, not wanting the elderly to suffer. And I think that is evidence of a global compassion, and that's very beautiful to me. So along those lines, we have to think about the way we perceive our fellow human. Think about unskilled labor. Think about how we regarded the profession of, say, stocking grocery store shelves. How we think about janitorial services, how we think about daycare, how we think about all of these industries that have been seen as low skill, unskilled, lower, dare I say, caste labor, and how we have recognized our immense dependence on these industries and the workers who do this. Think of the accolades that we've been able to give truck drivers, of grocery store employees, and daycare teachers. It's been an extraordinary thing, and which reminds me of a Thomas Sowell quote, and he wasn't speaking from a place of necessity, like, we're in a global pandemic, therefore we need these industries. He was just talking about healthy community and healthy society that, and this quote comes from, 50 years ago, so forgive some of the language about men, but what he said is, a man who works a menial labor job in order to provide for his wife and children is doing a deeply noble thing, and we ought to acknowledge that. Right? So meaning, maybe he's stocking grocery store shelves, and even though at the time, let's say in like 1970s, we wouldn't have thought of this as a terribly important job, even though we do now, for sure now. Anybody who's stocking toilet paper, I think, could win the Nobel Prize, but that's beside the point. But more that they are making an investment in time and money into the future that becomes their children, right? That if they can raise children to be contributing members of society, then they have left a legacy. They have done something beautiful. And this is to say that our paradigm shifts. The way that we view the world and the way that we view ourselves, it happens with every generation. And do we lose anything in our quote-unquote advancement of paradigm shifts? I can tell you from my perspective, I did not agree with the Thomas Sowell quote. I did not agree. I thought that a man working a menial labor job to see to the needs of his family was selling himself short, was ignoring his potential. I did not recognize the long-term benefit of healthy families and children who are loved and taken care of, and the positive the positive influence that those children have on a society. I was very concerned in my youth with being a rock star or a famous composer, and my mentality was, well, how can I see to my own needs of becoming this famous composer and wealthy and having an army of 25-year-old girlfriends who wait by the phone for me to call, if I'm trying to take care of a family? And it's kind of embarrassing these days to look back and think that that was my goal, that there was this shallowness to what I desired and how fleeting and short-term these things are. As opposed to the deep satisfaction that people who have families must experience. Not universally, but at least they it's probably more often than not, I would say. So, what if all we have to do is shift our mindset? If the world is what you perceive it to be, then wouldn't you rather perceive the world to be kind and compassionate and indeed noble? Wouldn't you rather live in a nation that is generous and accepting? Because there's plenty of evidence to support those notions. There's far more evidence to support that we are a generous and accepting, say, nation, if we're talking about the United States, than the idea that we are this evil, racist patriarchy. If we're talking about America, America is hands down the most generous nation in the world. And as a matter of fact, 7 of the 10 most generous nations in the world are in fact Western nations. Think about the global catastrophes that have happened where the American charities are right there, supported by the funding of the American people. So let's return to the mindset that we are indeed a dignified people, endowed by nature with this spark of the divine, which exists in you and it exists in me. And it even exists in people that we might call our enemy. So in the words of a famous 1960s hit, there ain't no good guys, there ain't no bad guys. There's just you and me, and we just disagree. Bless you, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Our closing words are by William James. Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does.